Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are featuring the Warhammer 40k Primaris Reaver. Alright, so I'm actually into like Warhammer, the tabletop game, and I love the McFarlane figures. I think they're great. And I was really excited with the release of the Reaver figure. It took me longer to get than I expected. My initial pre-order was actually canceled a few times. But I have the fig, and I'm pretty excited. And I also have the artist proof on the right here, which is an awesome figure as well. Okay, so let's get started. But first off, let's talk a little bit about the Primaris Reaver. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Warhammer or the actual Reaver character itself. Okay, so over here we have the Warhammer 40k Codex for the Space Marines. This comes in really handy for playing the game. It kind of gives you all the stats and data you need for the different troops and whatnot. And let me see if I can find the information on the Reavers. I want to say it's, where is it? 150. Alright, here it is, a Reaver Squad. Whoops. Okay. So here's the stats on the Primaris Reaver. From what I've read on forums, okay, so when it comes to Warhammer, the gaming end of it, I'm still very green to it. I'm more so into the crafting end, like collecting the miniatures and painting them up. So I was on the forums the other day just trying to find out some information on Reavers. And from what some of the more experienced players say, they say that the Reavers aren't necessarily a great squad to begin with, but they're just really badass looking. Here's some information on the Reavers. Rapid insertion terror troops. Reaver squads often deploy using grav chutes and directional fins to land with pinpoint accuracy, operating with near perfect stealth to reach the optimum location to strike from when ready. They unleash their fury, surging forward with augmented guttural roars and blasts of weapon fire. And they're outfitted with bolt pistol, carbine, grapple launcher, combat knife, and a grav chute. And over here we have different versions of the Primaris Reavers. We have the Space Wolves, Ultramarines, Salamanders, and the Raven Guard. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so over here is the actual Reaver miniatures. This is the easy to build set. Now you can actually even buy like a 5-man squad, and those models are actually, they have more flexibility. The easy to build stuff, it's pretty much like it says, it's easy to build. They're kind of push fit models, whereas the if you actually bought like the more expensive like 5-man squad, those models give you a lot more flexibility in terms of poses and like loadout and conversions and stuff. But this is the easy to build, aimed much more at the like beginner. And if you notice, these are pretty expensive too. These are like 15 bucks, and you're getting 3 miniatures. You're getting a Reaver Sergeant, and you're getting 2 Reavers. Whereas a McFarlane fig is like, this thing's only like $19.99. So this is actually like a steal. But if you're like into tabletop gaming and miniature building, I don't know, these are awesome. I love these things. Alright, so first off, let's box the figure first, and we'll unbox this a little bit later. Because chances are you're here for the action figure, not necessarily the miniature. Alright, so over here we have the Ultramarines Reaver. And comes with a bolt carbine. And then here's his grav chute, with the fins. And on the back, let's get this open. Alright, we have a little fig stand, much like most McFarlane figures. And here's our Primaris Reaver. And give me 1 second, I'm going to grab the Assault Intercessor real quick so we have comparisons. Alright, so here is the Ultramarines Assault Intercessor, and as you can see here, this is a custom because I gave him a custom head. So we're going to use this. I mean, if you're curious, I mean, most of you by now probably have this, so you're probably curious about the comparison between these two figures. So we're going to set this aside for now and focus on this, but then at a certain point we'll cut and we'll start comparing them side by side just to give you an idea of, you know, the scale, if there's difference in the colors, whatnot. Alright, this guy, let's get him out of the tray too. He's kind of coming out of focus. Here's his carbine. A grav chute. Alright, so we have our Primaris Reaver here. He looks great. Let's see if I can get him to focus. And there we go. So as you can see, his helmet has kind of like a skull mask in the front of the helm. It looks really sick. As opposed to having the standard Aquila on the chest, this guy kind of has the skull with the combat knives going through it. He has his grenades over here. He has the Ultramarines logo on one side, and on the other side, I believe the squad marking is, I want to say frontline, or it's like, or tactical, I think, if I remember my markings correctly. Nice sculpting for the body armor, or the under armor on the abdomen. He has some pouches on both legs. It's a much leaner figure than the Intercessor, or the Assault Intercessor. So there's an up close of his head. You can kind of see the sculpting on the mask. The sculpting is decent. I kind of wish it was a little bit edgier, but it's not that it's soft sculpted, but it can use a little bit more definition. But it looks great though. He could use a little bit more color application. You know, for example, you know, I've seen some models colored where the pouches are colored much more like brown with leather. You know, likewise, all the buttons here with the tiny skulls, you know, they could be easily painted with like silver or gold. Speaking of gold, the body armor here, the trim, it's not a perfect match, but you know, if you're used to seeing like you know, the color of the gold being colored like, I think with like Retributor armor gold, you know, this is all right. It could use a little bit more shine to it, I kind of think. One thing that's omitted also is that usually there's some paint application on the forearms. Often a lot of modelers, they'll color the buttons like with red and green. In terms of articulation, this guy's head rotates left and right. Doesn't really look down, but kind of does a little bit. What's cool though is if you look on the inside of the head, it's like a separate kind of like ball jointed piece. It's either on a joint or a ball. I can't really tell, but he can look down a little bit. He can look up a little bit. Lots of mobility in his waist. Surprisingly, a lot more than I think the Assault Intercessor. This is him crunching. This is him arching back. His arms rotate. Do they go out? They don't go. I think they do. Yeah, they go out a little bit. It's kind of a tight fit on mine. There we go. Sounds ratcheted, so. And here you can see the internal structure. Now it doesn't want to fold back in. It's annoying. Let's fix it. Yeah, really tight ratchet joints on one arm. This one isn't that bad. Alright, so the shoulder pauldrons, they're articulated also like the Assault Intercessor. As you can see here, which is nice. This guy has double jointed elbows, wrist articulation. His legs could kick up about there. I think, yeah, double pinned knees and ankle articulation. Here's his fin to grav pack. Now, if you notice that the plug here is different than on the Assault Intercessor. This one kind of has like a tab, and then vertical socket, and the fins, they are articulated, which is nice. And then here's his bolt carbine. Yeah, great figure. I like the Reaver design a lot. It's pretty cool. Okay, so in terms of comparison, here's my Assault Intercessor. And this guy has the custom head. Generally, he's outfitted with the red helmet. And if you're curious about the red helmet, red indicates this is a sergeant. If it was a blue helmet, it'd just be like a standard, you know, trooper, but this one's the Sarge. And then he has this sergeant marking also on over the Ultramarines logo. All right, and this guy, this guy comes with a bolt pistol, whereas this guy has the carbine. And this Assault Intercessor also comes with a chain sword over here. Now, one thing I noticed right off the bat is that my camera might not necessarily catch it, but there is a difference in the color scheme between these two figures. The figure on the right, it has a much more McCrag blue to it, versus this one here. This one's this blue is a little bit more punchy, a little bit more vibrant. It's kind of, I don't know. For me, it's like there's kind of a disconnect there. I kind of wish they would have, you know, stuck to one shade over the other. With this being the first release, you know, I think this blue holds maybe a little bit closer to, you know, the actual Games Workshop McCrag blue paint. But I think this one, in terms of the average consumer, looks a little bit more attractive. You know, if you don't play Warhammer, I don't think you're necessarily gonna be as picky. For me, it's like it's good either way, but I kind of just wish they'd commit to one shade over the other. Like I said, depending on how you're viewing this, you might not see the difference, but in person you will. This blue is a little bit on the matte side and almost a little bit on the grayer side, whereas this one, it's like a very, very vibrant blue. The Assault Intercessor, I want to say he feels a little bit more bulky than this guy, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. Maybe it's because of, you know, the boots on his power armor. On the back, similar sculpts on the packs, but if you notice, you know, the Grav pack it's missing some of the details on the top, and then it actually has the fins, and they're not interchangeable because this one has a different tab. You see, this one has a giant square tab, square socket, where this one has, you know, this one has a different plug altogether. And I think here you might be able to see the difference in the colors of the plastic also. A lot lighter matted gray, really deeper blue. Okay, let's take a look at the artist proof. So one thing with the artist proof figures, especially with the Warhammer stuff, you're not always just getting strictly a gray figure. Some of the time these artist proofs are actually a different figure than this. Like the artist proof here, surprisingly, this is the Reaver Sergeant, I think. It can either be considered the Sergeant or maybe this a variant on the head. Because as you can see here, this one has the mask and the full helm. This one only has the mask, and then his head, the top of his head's exposed, and you can see a mohawk. Likewise, you're actually getting different weapons. This one comes with the grapple gun, and then if you notice, his jump pack isn't a grav pack; it's missing the fins, which is kind of odd because I believe the Reavers, I think they're just generally stocked with the finned grav pack. So that's kind of an interesting choice. And this one also comes with a combat knife. So for the most part, don't sleep on these artist proofs because most of the time they're actually going to be a different character. For example, there was the Blood Angel Hellblaster, the red Space Marine, and the artist proof was actually a different figure. The artist proof was actually a standard Ultramarine with a Hellblaster. And you would notice the difference too because the artist proof on the Intercessor had the standard Aquila on the chest, whereas the Blood Angel actually had like the Bloodstone in the middle. So yeah, there's going to be some differences. I believe the Sister of Battle though was identical, the artist proof with the standard release. Yeah, so here's the Primaris Reaver artist proof. It looks great. Excuse me. And lastly, for those of you who are interested, let's take a look at this. This is the easy to build kit featuring 3 Reavers. If you're new to the hobby, you know, this might be the way to go just because, you know, they're easy to build. And the price, yeah, the actual hobby of Warhammer itself, in terms of the collecting the miniatures and playing the tabletop game, it's kind of a pricey hobby. You know, the miniatures are pretty expensive. Likewise, if you have to buy terrain or like the codexes and the rule book, or even like buying a starter kit, that could be kind of expensive. But if you're into like customizing and modeling, even if you're not into tabletop gaming, I think it's a wonderful hobby. So here is the Warhammer 40K Collect, Build, Paint, Play Space Marines Primaris Reaver. It's easy to build, as you can see with the logo there. It comes with 1 Reaver Sergeant, like I pointed out earlier with the McFarlane fig. This guy is without the full helmet, just has the mask. And it comes with 2 Reavers, both armed with heavy bolt pistols and combat knives. or I kind of stand corrected. So whereas this guy comes with the finned grav packs, these do not. But I want to say, I think, like I pointed out in the recent codex, I think nowadays the Reavers are kind of like stock outfitted with grav packs. So. Here's, I believe, the instructions. Let's get to the focus. Inside. And these are push fit models. You don't necessarily need glue, but it doesn't hurt. So there's 3 different designs. And they give you the color suggestions. You know, these are all Citadel paints. So this comes in handy also, because if you're into like painting the McFarlane artist proofs, these are the paints you'd want to use to get a little bit more accurate. And then these are the stats for the Reaver squad. I believe they've changed with the 9th edition Warhammer. More stats. And then here's the models. So pretty neat. I'll probably like actually assemble and paint these up, and when I do, I'll share a video at some point in the near future. I'm currently putting together an Ultramarine army. I kind of have maybe like roughly around 40 miniatures in my Ultramarine army right now that are fully painted and built up. So I'll be adding these Reavers to them at some point. Okay, so let's talk about this Reaver before we close out the video. So if I had to rate this guy on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't know, for me this guy might be an easy 10. You know, he is what he is. You know, it looks like the Reaver. The sculpting's nice, the articulation's great. Yeah, so I think it's awesome. And I wouldn't be surprised in the near future if, you know, there's like numerous chapters of Space Marines. So I wouldn't doubt it if in the near future they gave us, you know, repaints and also like retools with the head. You know, they might give us in the future, at least fingers crossed. You know, I'd like to see like, you know, salamanders, or for me, I'd love to see the space wolves. But we'll see. Only time will tell. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.